Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S4 4095, Day of the Dinosaur. Grandpa, Clong, Ben, Rosie, Max, Alice. If dinosaur came to our time, what would it do? Read Day of the Dinosaur, then find out. Chapter 1. Quick, said Max. If you don't move, the dinosaur is going to eat you. Ben laughed and moved his fingers quickly over the button. The little man on the screen ran, but he was too slow. A moment later, there were two words on the screen in big yellow letters: Game over. Here, let's do something else, said Ben. He looked out his bedroom window. He could usually see Grandpa's van, but he wasn't there that afternoon. So where's Grandpa gone? Asked Max. He said that he was going somewhere dangerous, answered Ben. He'll tell us about it when he comes back. Max smiled. Well, you won't have to wait for a long time, he said. Look, the van is coming back now. It was true. There was a flash of light, and then the van was back on the driveway. Come on, said Ben. Let's find out where Grandpa's been. Oh, tell us about your adventure, Grandpa, Ben said as he opened the van door. He stopped. Grandpa wasn't in the van. His robot, Clunk, wasn't in the van. It was empty. Where are they? Asked Max. Let's look at the black box, said Ben. The black box was a machine that recorded everything in Grandpa's van. Ben turned it on, and the two boys looked at the screen. They could see Grandpa's face. This place is amazing, said Grandpa's voice. Where was this recorded? Thought Ben. On the screen, Grandpa said, Come on, Clunk. We're going outside to collect some plants. The boy watched as Grandpa left the van. For a minute, nothing happened. Then suddenly there was a terrible noise from the black box. Is that an animal? Ben asked, worried. It sounds very big. Suddenly there was another noise, not from the black box, but from inside the van. Something was moving behind the boys. Something fast. There was no time to see what it was. It jumped past them and through the open door. Chapter 2. Rosie and her friend Alice were sitting outside. They were trying to play with Alice's cat Bobby, but Bobby wasn't very interested in a cat toy with a little bell. He was more interested in one of the bushes in the backyard. What's he doing? Asked Rosie. He's always trying to catch birds, Alice said unhappily. Bobby, come back here. The cat didn't listen. His eyes didn't move from the bush as he moved closer and closer to it. Bobby jumped into the bush. A moment later, the girls heard a frightened cry. Alice jumped to her feet. Bobby, are you okay? The cat jumped out of the bush as fast as a rocket and ran around the corner of the house. Why is Bobby so scared? Asked Rosie. What's in that bush? She and Alice went closer. There is something in there, said Alice. It looks bigger than a cat. The big yellow eyes looked back at them from inside the bush. Suddenly, an animal jumped out of the bush. It had a thin neck, long legs, and a long tail. Surprised and afraid, the girls jumped back. The animal moved fast across the grass. It stopped when it smelled food, Bobby's food. With its sharp claws, It picked up the food from Bobby's bowl and began to eat. It ate one of Bobby's cat toys too. Then it ran away. What was that? Asked Rosie. A lizard from the zoo? A moment later, Ben and Max ran to the girls. Ben quickly explained about the van. Rosie listened and told the boys about the strange animal. I've never seen a lizard like it, she said. I have, said Alice quietly. I've seen a picture of one. It was in a book about dinosaurs. Dinosaurs? Said Ben. He looked more worried than ever. So Grandpa hasn't gone to a different place. He's gone to a different time. Chapter 3. So that little dinosaur got into the van before it came back to our time, said Ben. But Grandpa didn't come back with it, said Rosie. Wait, said Max. I thought that dinosaurs were huge. Not all of them, said Alice. Some were as small as chicken. Ben was thinking, dinosaurs died millions of years ago, he said. Nobody has ever seen one alive. We have to find that dinosaur before anybody else sees it. Alice and I will do that, Rosie told her brother. You have to find Grandpa. While the girls made their plan to catch the dinosaur, Max followed Ben to the van. What are you going to do? He asked. We can't drive the van. We don't have to, Ben explained. Grandpa has made some changes to the van. Max watched as his friend typed some numbers on the van's computer screen. Suddenly, the boys heard a voice from a speaker at the front of the van. Hello, Ben. Max was very surprised. Who said that? It's the van's computer, Ben explained. We can just tell it where to go now. Cool. Max looked excited for a moment. Then he remembered where they were going and he looked worried again. Ben spoke to the computer. A van. We are going somewhere very dangerous. I understand, said the voice from the speaker. There was a strange sound as the van changed its shape. It didn't look like an ordinary van now. It looked ready for anything. Ben looked at his friend. What about you, Max? Are you ready? Not really, Max answered. But I don't think that I'll ever be ready, so let's go. Ben smiled. Van, please take us to the last place that Grandpa went. Okay, said the computer voice. The boys sat back as the engine started. Then the boys saw circles of light, and the van started moving into them. Wait, shouted Max. I've changed my mind. But it was too late. Chapter 4. Where's Bobby? Asked Rosie. I think he's hiding somewhere, said Alice. She put a piece of cat food on the ground. Then the girls walked a little farther, and Alice put down another piece of another piece. When they reached the open garage door, she put the last piece inside. The two girls looked back. There was a line of food from the backyard to the garage of Alice's house. Now what? Asked Alice. We hide and wait, said Rosie. I just hope that the little dinosaur is still near here. The girls hid behind the city, behind the car. They didn't have to wait long. The dinosaur came to the front of the house. It smelled the air. Then it put its head down, ate the first piece of food, slowly moved to the second piece. Alice almost couldn't believe it. She was really looking at a dinosaur. Suddenly, the dinosaur stopped. He could hear something. Rosie could hear it too. The neighbor, Mrs. Brown, was arriving in her car. Oh no, thought Rosie. When Mrs. Brown walks to her front door, she'll see the dinosaur. Rosie jumped up and ran. Alice stayed behind the car and watched the dinosaur. It was watching Rosie carefully, but it didn't run away. At last it moved to the next piece of food. Alice waited nervously. Please don't let Mrs. Brown look this way, she thought. Rose picked up a soccer ball. She gave a big smile. Hello, Mrs. Brown, she said. What's this, Mrs. Brown? Said Rosie. She started to kick the soccer ball. up in the air, again and again. Mrs. Brown watched. Very good, she said in a bored voice. She started to turn. Please wait, said Rosie. I haven't finished yet. She kicked the ball higher and higher. Mrs. Bull looked at her. Are you feeling okay, Rosie? Over her neighbor's shoulder. Rosie saw Alice shut the garage door. That meant one thing. The dinosaur was in the garage. Rosie caught the ball. I'm fine, thanks, Mrs. Brown. Bye. Chapter 5. We are here, said Ben, about 140 million years ago. Max looked out of the window. It looked like an ordinary day in the countryside. He could see lots of trees, some birds in the sky, and a few hills far away. Then he looked again. Wait a minute, those are too big to be birds. They are flying dinosaurs. Those hills over there are moving. They are not hills, they are huge dinosaurs. Let's find Grandpa quickly and go home, said Max. Ben agreed, and he had a plan too. Grandpa always takes his cell phone with him, he said. We can't call him here, said Max. Of course not. But Grandpa's phone gives a signal anywhere. But turn to the computer. Ben, can you find the signal from Grandpa's phone? Please wait, said the computer. I'm looking. Don't take too long, said Max. Those huge dinosaurs might come this way. At last the computer spoke again. I have found the signal. Great, said Ben. Please take us to it, Van. The van began to drive. There were no roads, so he couldn't go very quickly. How far now? Max asked after a few minutes. 50 meters, said the computer. 40 meters. The van turned at a huge rock, but Ben and Max didn't see Grandpa. They saw the most terrible dinosaur of all. It stood on two legs, and its teeth were huge and sharp. It's a T-Rex, shouted Max. Stop, shouted Ben. Turn around, Van. The van turned, but the boys could see the terrible dinosaur through the back window. We watched the van for a few moments, and then it started to run. Go faster, shouted Max. I can't go faster on this ground, answered the computer quietly. The boys looked back. The T-Rex was getting closer. It opened its huge mouth and gave a terrible, hungry roar. Van, take us home to our time. Chapter 6. Rosie and Alice were happy to see the van again, but then they saw that Grandpa wasn't with the boys. The van followed Grandpa's phone signal. It took us to a T-Rex. But what was Grandpa doing with the T-Rex? Asked Rosie. We didn't see Grandpa, said Max, but the phone signal was coming from inside the dinosaur. Rosie looked very afraid. If the phone is inside that dinosaur, is Grandpa inside the dinosaur too? Ben put a hand on his sister's shoulder. Don't worry, Rosie. Grandpa is much smarter than any dinosaur. We'll go back and find him. He looked around. Did you catch that little dinosaur? Alice pointed at the garage door. It's in there, she said, and it doesn't sound very happy. Perhaps it'll be happier when it goes home, said Max. He put a hand on the garage door. 1, 2, 3, now. Max pulled the door open. The little dinosaur was probably fast enough to escape from 2 people, maybe 3, but 4 people were too many. Be careful, said Rosie, when they had the dinosaur in a blanket. It has sharp teeth. We carried it to the corner of the garage and put it into an empty box. What's that noise? Said Ben. Sounds like a little bell. Oh, it is a bell, said Alice. I think the dinosaur ate one of Bobby's cat toys. That gives me an idea, Ben said with a smile when the box was in the van. He went to the door. I might know where Grandpa is. Come on, Max. Rosie put a hand on the door. We want to come, too, she said. I want to help to save Grandpa. And I want to see our little dinosaur when it's home and free, said. But thought Bento for a moment. Then he said, okay. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Chapter 7. They arrived back in the time of the dinosaurs. They opened the back door of the van and watched as the little dinosaur jumped out of the box. I hope you had a nice adventure in our time, said Alice as the dinosaur ran away. The sound of Bobby's bell became quieter and quieter. When they had reached the right place, now let's find Grandpa. Don't follow the phone signal this time, Ben. Take us back to where we saw the T-Rex. When they had reached the right place, they couldn't see the T-Rex anywhere. Take us closer to that cave, please, Ben said. Ben. And they were close enough. Something came out of the cave. Is that a dinosaur? Asked Ellie. No, said Meg. It's Clunk, and Grandpa is behind him. Grandpa had a smile on his face as he walked toward the van. Hurry, Grandpa, shouted Rosie through the window. It's dangerous here. There was a terrible loud noise. A huge head was moving over the tree. The T-Rex had smelled the dinner. Grandpa put one hand on his head and ran. He ate, and Clunk jumped into the van moments before the dinosaur reached it. Let's go, Van, shouted Ben. Rosie asked Grandpa what had happened. The T-Rex wanted to eat us, explained Grandpa, so I played the voicemail through my phone's speaker and put the phone down. When the dinosaur heard the voicemail, it ate the phone. Clunk and I hid and waited for you to save us. The van took Grandpa and the 4 children home. At the same time, a team of archaeologists was working hard in the mountain. They were looking for dinosaur bones in the ground. Look at this, said one of the archaeologists excitedly. It's tooth of a T-Rex. There are lots of bones too. I found something else, said another archaeologist. He picked something. I looked at it carefully, but I don't understand, he said. It looks like a cell phone. The end.